the only thing that will fight with illusion is illusion. The only thing that will go into battle with notness, illusion, is also itself. It's the ego mind itself, which is again illusion. When truth is authority, the illusion is not seen as a threat. It's not the one in power. It's not the one that dictates reality. The nature of reality is isness, ever ising forth, ever pouring forth. Imagine a star that's perpetually shining forth, ever issuing forth, right? Ever giving forth. And so that's the fundamental essence of reality. And so a frequency will forever issue that frequency forth. You cannot, quote unquote, get rid of it because where we are is existence. Non existence doesn't exist, right? So a frequency will forever be that frequency in existence, will forever be issuing forth its, you can say, flavor, its quality here in existence. A position will forever be in exuding of that position, will forever be in, quote unquote, isingness, ising forth of that position. The ego mind's position is notness, right? It's that which is separated from isness, hence the position of not is, the position of not there, not arrived, not valid, not whole, not complete, not worthy, etc. That is its, you can say, perpetual position. You cannot expect the ego mind to be in any other way because that is the position that it is occupying, that it has taken up. And so it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if the mind is so noisy or spewing whatever notness it's spewing because that's exactly how it is, quote unquote, supposed to be. And if you use the mind to change it or try to fix it or get away from it or try to get rid of it, it's a fool's game because you cannot resolve something using the dimension that it's in, using the same dimension. It's like red cannot resolve red using red. You see what I mean? It will only ever be a reinforcement of that dimension. And so it's not a matter of making the fragment whole, right? Or making red blue. It's quote unquote shifting to the whole or shifting to blue, which is also already existing, which is also already forever in ising forth. In the human experience, we get to choose which perspective or lens to come from, to look from, you can say. And you can say that we can only choose one. There's only going to be one authority, quote unquote. You cannot serve two masters at the same time, right? And so if the identity is tightly identified or merged with the ego mind, then the ego mind will be the authority. It's the one relating, with things. It's the one reacting to things. It's the one doing things, right? It's the ego doer at the forefront. And everything else is the background, related to by the ego mind. Because the ego mind is the authority. Now, if we shift authority from the ego mind to the avatar, to the whole body, to that which is integrated, right? It's the one integrated, it's the whole, therefore, it's the one that contains the good qualities, the isnness of our true nature qualities, whole, complete, worthy, valid, arrived, etc. Right? That quote unquote position is held by the whole, is held by the body. Because again, what the ego mind contains or holds is the position of notness. Yesness, isness, presence, integratedness, wholeness, that's the job of the whole, of the whole body, of the avatar. And so if we now shift authority from the ego mind to the avatar, then the avatar is now the one in responding, is now the one in relating with things. And since it's the one at the forefront, everything else becomes the background, including the ego mind. So the ego mind, from its foreground position, from its authority position, now becomes the background, now becomes the, the follower, you can say. It's not the one in authority anymore. Since it's not the one in authority anymore and more like the background, you'll notice that its notness ideas or its notness blabbering becomes like insignificant, like an irrational tantruming of a child, let's say. You know how a child cries or tantrums about the smallest things or the silliest things, like when the dad shave his beard and the child cries because the beard is gone. Those kinds of silly things that from an adult perspective is just so irrational, it's such nonsense, right? But from the child's perspective, it's such a grave thing, right? It's such a serious thing that they cry about it, that they agonize about it. And so in the same way, from the ego mind's perspective, it's not quote unquote issues, it's worries and concerns are so serious. It's as if it's true. It's as if that's really the case. And so it's suffering, it's in agonizing, it's in misery. Again, just like the child who cries about the shaving of the dad's beard. And as an adult, when we see a child crying about such little thing or such nonsense, you can say, we find it amusing. We find it funny, right? We find it silly and amusing. And so notice how when you are in the body, when you have the body as the authority, as your interface, as the forefront, right? And it's the one relating with things and responding to things, internal and external, right? Again, as I've mentioned previously, the ego mind now becomes the background because it's the avatar, the whole, that which is in the forefront. And so from the whole's perspective, the wailings of the fragments becomes kind of amusing, becomes kind of silly, you know? It's like from the truth's perspective, point of view, the wailings and the tantrumings of illusion becomes amusing, becomes silly. Like imagine being in a pool and there's a child that's so scared to jump in the pool, even if the pool is so shallow that that the child can stand in it, and the child is so scared and so fearful and is suffering and he cannot bring himself to go in the pool. And so you who are already in the pool, in the very shallow pool, from your perspective, from your point of view, looking at the child, you'll just find it amusing, right? You'll have a kind of compassion you'll have a kind of empathy, you can say, like, oh, poor fella, or oh, poor kid, right? But there's not seriousness in it. There's not that grave, serious, weighty problem, problematizing about it. And so that's kind of how it is when you have the avatar or the body as the authority. When you allow it to be at the forefront and you allow it to be the one, quote unquote, handling things. Again, internal and external. So the egoic arisings, right? The notness thoughts or a sense of maybe discomfort or a sense of, again, not enough, not valid, not whole, not secure, etc. If an arising of that kind of thought or feeling arises, it's related with by the avatar, meaning it's a background. And you'll notice that when it's related with by the avatar, the body, who is again the one in wholeness, presence, substantiatedness, the one in arrivedness, who contains all the true nature qualities, all the quote unquote positive qualities, your ideal self, basically. And so it relating with the quote unquote the background noise of notness, you'll find that the notness ideas sort of just naturally dissolves. It's seen, right? It's not invalidated, it's not denied, it's not suppressed, it's just related with, you see? It's just you have it be related to by the body, by the authority, by truth, basically. It's like illusion, having illusion be related with by truth, by reality, you can say dissolves the illusion, renders illusion powerless, sort of nullifies it. Again, as with the analogy a while ago with the child crying about the disappearance of the dad's beard, or the child feeling so scared going in the pool. From an adult's perspective or from someone who's already in the pool, the POV of that, like looking across, perceiving from this vantage point and looking across to that child, again, it becomes sort of amusing, right? It becomes sort of quote unquote entertaining. Illusion from the truth's perspective is quote unquote entertaining. You know how when we watch a film and the scene is so outrageous, like so far removed from reality, and we laugh at it and we burst into laughter because it's just so dumb, right? It's just so out of touch, so unrealistic. Again, it's so far removed from reality that we that we find it so amusing. We just find it entertaining, right? Even though, let's say, the intention of the scene is to be so serious and dramatic, but it's just so beyond reality. It's so outrageous and unrealistic that we just find it entertaining and amusing, right? So that's kind of how it is when the authority is shifted to the avatar, the body, you know, this shifting of position. When the body becomes the foreground and the ego mind becomes the background, and it's the avatar, the body, that is in relating with things, including the ego mind, then the ego mind becomes sort of nullified, you know. Again, it's like this tender, compassionate amusement thing wherein you just say, poor child or poor fella, preoccupied with notness. or confined in nothingness, right? It's seeing from outside that box. Again, it's like looking across from outside that confinement, outside that box, that kind of perception, that kind of relating. Again, with the child who is stuck, who is in his box and cannot go into the pool, that's his limit. You can say that is his boundary, his limit, his confinement. So you coming from outside of that confinement already in the pool, it'll just be a kind of pity, but not really pity, but like a compassionate, like, oh, poor child, like a soft amusement. Or another analogy would be like when we look back to our past self, and our past self is far from how we are now. Like how I was when I was young, it's just so insecure, very brainwashed, you can say, always wanting to please people, wanting to get validation, get approval, right? And it's like you as an adult or as someone who is years past that, looking across to that past self, it's kind of like that, it's like, oh, there, it'll be okay, you know? And so you'll notice that that's how the body or the avatar relate with the ego mind, right? It's not grave, it's not significant that it has to battle with it or has to fight with it or has to quote unquote do something about it or try to fix it, suppress it, deny it, repress it, etc. It's a no problem thing. It understands that that is its position, that notness is taken on by the ego mind, and it's just, oh, poor thing. And that's what's interesting is that the only thing that will fight with illusion is illusion. The only thing that will go into battle with notness, illusion, is also itself. It's the ego mind itself, which is again illusion. When truth is authority, the illusion is not seen as a threat. It's not the one in power. It's not the one that dictates reality, you can say. That which is whole, that which is truth, that which is stabilized, right, in substance, in fleshed out, again, the body, the avatar, it's solid, right? It's in substance, it's in fleshed out. It's not at the mercy, of airy thoughts. It's not at the mercy of notness ideas. It's the one in fleshed out, you see. It's the authority. It's the one solid, you can say. It's the one, quote unquote, chosen to be here, to be in, yes, fleshed out. The ego mind is the ghostly ego mind. It's not the one in solidity, it's not the one in strength, you can say. It's not the one solid, sturdy, firm, integrated, stabilized, right? So you can notice that it's always vying, it's always struggling, it's always trying to get there, trying to arrive, trying to grasp, trying to finally arrive at the ideal, trying to be, trying to be that. It's vying, vying for, again, validity, approval, worthiness, wanting to be accepted. Remember that its position is perpetual removedness. And so it's always removed, not being, not being that. Therefore, its state is always in grasping. It's not the one, quote unquote, chosen to be in fleshed out. The body is the one in fleshed out, right? So here in physicality, in the 3D realm, that's the representation. Ego mind, the position is notness, distance, removedness. Removedness, distance, therefore, the perpetual vying for, the perpetual trying to arrive, the perpetual trying to get, trying to reach, trying to be whole, trying to be complete. Perpetual, right? It cannot be quote unquote changed because that is its domain. That is the characteristics or character of its position. And so, if that is not what you prefer to be the authority, if that is not the quote unquote master you want to serve, then shift your attention here, you know. Have the avatar be at the forefront. Allow it to be the one. It's like a bowing down at it, you know, a humbling to it so that it is the one in living. Its mileage is the one in quote unquote in usage. In summary, if the vessel, the avatar, is that which is at the forefront, and the avatar is that which contains all the true nature qualities, right? And it's whole and complete, right? It's stable, it's solid, it's a standalone. So it's that which is not dependent on circumstance for its wholeness, as opposed to the ego mind, right? The ego mind requires the outside circumstance to cater to him, to please him, to be in accordance to his desire, for him to feel good, for him to have a sense of a kind of stability. But for the body, for the avatar who is in truth, whose position is isness, the isness of true nature qualities, again, quote unquote, your ideal self, when faced with a situation, let's say an unpreferred situation, perhaps a situation where there is an apparent lack, right? Lack of maybe abundance, lack of support, lack of comfort, lack of whatever the ego mind desires or think it's lacking. So even when faced with such circumstance doesn't define, the position of the avatar. Again, the avatar is not at the mercy of circumstance, as opposed to the ego mind. Circumstance, how circumstance looks like, is not taken as evidence to the contrary. It's not taken as evidence of notness. The position of the avatar remains. Again, the representation of avatar is solidity, firmness, steadfast, solid, integrated, whole, already whole, already infleshed out, already here, already the case. And so it's not at the mercy, you can say. The ego mind is not whole, is not solid, is in perpetual vying for, right? It's in constant dependency on the external. It's swayable, right? It's brainwashable. It's manipulatable. So that's the invitation, is to tune into the body, that which is, you can say, the idea, that which has quote unquote arrived. How will it respond to the blabberings of the ego mind, right? How will it conduct itself? How will it relate with other people? How will it relate to circumstances that seem to show apparent lack? If its position is sturdy, that which is not at the mercy, that which is firm and sturdy and quote unquote unchangeable, how will it then respond, right? How will it live life? How will it feel? How will it relate to the internal arisings and the external circumstance? Right? I hope you get a kind of sense of this. even though I speak in broad brush strokes. And yeah, it'll be a nice exploration, especially for those who are always trying to transcend, trying to get away from the body, trying to ascend, away from the body and not respecting the body. It will be a nice exploration.